Hey everybody, Travis Clater back. I'm the owner of TC Strategic Communications, and I know we're in the middle of an unprecedented crisis, but that doesn't mean as professionals we sit by and not hone our skill sets or practice. Now is the time to make sure we're improving on our skill sets, investing in ourselves, so that way when this crisis is over, we're in an even better position to succeed. So today, I thought we'd talk a little bit about conducting media interviews and give you 7 tips to make sure you nail that media interview. And doing a media interview can be one of the most stressful experiences ever, but it doesn't have to be. Let me first start by saying, no matter how good of a spokesperson you are, no matter how many times you've done media interviews, you should always invest in media training at least once a year and bring a professional in to do it. Not only does it give you a chance to practice and hone your skills, but it gives you a chance to revisit your brand messaging and make sure that everything is current and relevant for where your business is at. Now, 7 tips for conducting a media interview. First and foremost, this is your media interview. It's easy, especially for beginners, to think that you're not in control of the interview. This couldn't be further from the truth unless you allow the journalist to take control. It's up to you to deliver your messaging, engage the reporter, set the boundaries, and conduct a kick-ass interview. You want it to be, of course, a win-win for both you and the reporter, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to control the process. Number 2, body language and nonverbal cues. This is something we all need to keep in mind. And if you've ever done any sort of media training, it's something you've heard before. But it's something we need to keep in mind for not just the 30 seconds of the first 30 seconds of the interview, but for the entire interview. Think about a different setting. How many times have you sat in a meeting? You start by sitting upright, you're paying attention, you're engaged, and then all of a sudden you get a little tired, your mind starts wandering a little bit, and you find yourself slouching a little bit or looking down at your computer or looking down at your notepad. It's easy to do and something that all of us have done at one point or another. So it's easy to forget about your body language in the middle of an interview, halfway through, especially if you're concentrating on other aspects of the interview or your messaging. But don't fall into that trap. Stay engaged, maintain an open posture, and be present for that moment of the interview. Number 3, know your messaging. I know it sounds simple, but it's such a difficult thing to do. If you think you've practiced your messaging enough, go back and practice again and then again. If you can't deliver your messaging in a meaningful and clear way, and that's done through repetition and practice, then you're doing more damage than good. During an interview, as I was just saying, you have so much to pay attention to and to remember that you want your messaging to be second nature. You don't want to have to be grasping at straws to figure out what your next key point was going to be or what you wanted your most important message to be. So rehearse, practice, memorize your messaging as much as you can. Number 4, use your silence. This is a technique reporters use all the time, and it's something that as interview subjects, we can actually turn around and use to our benefit. And think about how it works. And whether you're talking with somebody or you've done an interview before, you'll finish answering a question or delivering a perfect response. And then what happens? The person interviewing you or the person you're talking to sits quietly. There's a little bit of an awkward silence, and you feel like you should be saying something. And then what do? You start to talk again. If you have more quality information to add, or if you have a point that you want to make and then move on and transition to another topic, that's great. But for beginners, don't fall into the trap of feeling like you need to say something. Make your point, answer the question, and then move on and maintain control of that interview. Stick to what you are, not what you aren't. Another trap beginners tend to fall into is using negative language or repeating negative language, especially with how journalists can pose questions to you. You absolutely want to correct misinformation, but you don't want to use the same language, especially if it's negative language that they used to ask that question. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're in the middle of an interview, it's getting a little rough, and a reporter says, it's been reported that your company discriminates with its hiring practices. Is that true? Now, it's a leading question, but it's the structure of it is not unheard of. So let's say as a spokesperson, your response is, no, we do not discriminate against any person, and we work with some of the best professionals in the industry. The problem with that is you're reinforcing negative language like discriminate or even the word not. So instead of reinforcing that negative language, a more appropriate response could have been, we are an equal opportunity employer and we are proud of the diverse workforce which brings some of the industry's best talents together. See the difference in using affirmative language and getting your message across versus repeating the negative language. So don't fall into that trap. Number 6, keep it simple. Avoid jargon. We all want to sound smart when we talk, but here's the thing, sounding smart isn't the point of an interview. Getting your message across in a meaningful way that resonates with your audiences, that's the objective of an interview. And that means you need to speak clearly, make your points in easy, simple, understand terms, and don't use jargon or don't use words that people wouldn't normally use in everyday language outside of your industry. And finally, keep it short. More words does not mean a better answer. If you take more than 4 to 5 short sentences to answer any one question, it's taking too long. Most people will tune out. You're not even likely to get your message across anyway after that point. So keep your answers short, and that's going to allow you to drive your key messages home and then transition to additional topics that you want to talk about, which gives you additional control of that interview. So there you have it. There are your 7 tips. Follow these, practice often, and you'll nail that next media interview. And don't forget to check out our blog and additional videos at tcstrategic.com, and we'll see you back for more strategic thoughts soon.